In a moment now, we'll have the ladies' grand finals, and the ladies, remember, are in number 1 position Jeanette Baker from South Australia. The second qualifier was Kathy Solis from the Philippines, and number 3 is Louise Wallace from Victoria. And for these games, I'm joined by AMF 10-pin bowling instructor Dawn McDonald. Dawn, I know you spent a lot of time in the tournament room. Have you seen much of the play?
Not as much as I'd like to have seen, but I popped out every now and then to watch the girls perform. Very impressive. Last night, particularly Bonku from the Philippines, her 277 game, defeating Jeanette Baker, who was on top today on a 191 game.
And what about Kathy Solis? She's quite an accomplished bowler, isn't she?
She's not a seasoned bowler. The first win she's had was to come across this year to represent the Philippines in this tournament. Bowling a lot of style, a lot of fingers on the ball, very impressive girl. And
who's your pick for the first place?
Well, we'll have to go with Jeanette Baker, seasoned even though she's 27 years of age, 6 times FIQ member, winner of the South Pacific in 1975, and you'll have to go with Baker.
Well, we'll see what sort of a judge Dawn McDonald is. Let's see now the ladies' grand finals. Well, Dawn, Steve Mackey selected the winner of the men's section, all right. He went for Ian Bradford, and Ian Bradford has won the trip to Holland for the Bowling World Cup, the 1980 World Cup, from the 22nd to the 28th of November. And, of course, if Jeanette Baker can win the ladies, then she also will represent Australia in Holland for the World Cup in November. The first of the ladies' matches is between Louise Wallace of Victoria and Kathy Solis of the Philippines. And there we see Louise Wallace of Victoria, who finished in 3rd place behind Jeanette Baker of South Australia and Kathy Solis of the Philippines.
Louise Wallace, this year FIQ captain. Her first time in the FIQ team. She's bowling really beautifully. Lessons off Dick Richter, obviously, since he was out here last year. Working very well on her game. Kathy Solis, not as seasoned, but she has a lot of heart, I'm sure, today. And whichever girl wins, I'm sure between Jeanette and Louise, we'll have a worthy representative in Holland.
Well, a little information there about Kathy Solis, Dawn. 39 years of age. She's been bowling for 10 years, represented the Philippines this year in the South Pacific Classic. As you've said, she won the trip to Australia to bowl in this year's event for the first time. And here she is in the ladies' grand finals.
Difficult to tell how Kathy feels. Her English is very good, but inwardly they feel a little more than the outward appearance often gives. I think she'll perform very well this afternoon. Rolls a very good ball.
Well, both girls have had their 1 practice ball on each lane. So the first game of this 2-game series will begin. Total pinfall to count, as it did in the men's games. And the winner of this first match to bowl against Jeanette Baker for the South Pacific Classic title. And, of course, the winner, as I've told you, or the higher place between Louise Wallace and Jeanette Baker will win the trip to Holland.
Big follow through then by Kathy. In a little bit light, left the 10-pin.
Now, Louise Wallace.
Louise stayed down on the ball that time, and she looks like she means business this afternoon.
Well, that's certainly a good start. Strike in the first frame, as against 9 pins down by Kathy Solis.
Both girls rolling a 15-pound ball. Come inside. I thought we'd come inside.
For a moment it looked like it, didn't it? Just taking the edge of that 10-pin. And like...
right, just picking the left-hand corner of the 10-pin to carry for spare.
Louise Wallace concentrates very hard, doesn't she?
Yes. It looks good. She's in for a double. Great start from Louise. Big fan club here. from Melbourne, right into the pocket, carrying the pins, perfection strike.
Oh, and there's a nasty split, that 3-10 for Kathy Solis from the Philippines. One which was missed on 2 occasions by Brian Bridges in the men's finals.
Well, let's see if the women can pick this one up. I think Kathy will know the spare pretty well. She spares well watching her through the last 4 days. Ball well out in the lane. She'll come in and she's going to chop the shot.
So there's an open frame, and Kathy Solis is 27 in the second frame, having opened that one. Louise Wallace, however, has strikes in the first and second. She's going for the turkey, the third in a row.
Both girls using a full fingertip grip this afternoon. Just the first joint in the ball. Very little high, leaving the 4-pin.
There's a 29 for Louise Wallace in the first frame with 2 strikes, and then the 9 pins down. Remembering the strike counts 10 plus the next 2 balls. The spare counting 10 plus the next single ball.
Crossing over, and strange enough on the cross, leaving the 10-pin. Not a pin you'd leave on the cross as much as you would perhaps the 7-pin. Crossing well over onto Brooklyn. Kicking out in front of the 10-pin. Unlucky on the kickback not to come back and carry that pin that time. Louise staying down well on the ball. She's cutting that 10-pin fine.
She certainly is. Kathy Solis, 27 in the second frame with a spare in the third.
Almost identical 10-pin. Oh, much finer, much finer.
And Louise Wallace is 49 in the second frame with a spare in the third. So a difference there of 22 pins to Louise Wallace. It's a good start.
This one's high now. We'll see how Louise handles the 3-10.
Yes, well, Kathy failed to convert this same split, 3-10 on the other lane. Now, if she can strike here, she can get back into this game.
No, it's going to be light.
Yes.
Missed the target, failed to bring the ball up. Ball coming in very, very light, just clipping the head pin, that sort of leave 2-4-5.
Now, here's this awkward split.
It looks good.
Yes, all the way.
It looks good. With lots of confidence. Ball well out in the lane. Taking the right-hand side of the 3-pin. Deflection off the ball carries the 10-pin. And Kathy has picked up her spare.
So the difference now is one of 23 pins in the third frame. Louise Wallace, 67. And Kathy Solis, 44. Both have spared the fourth frame. In the match play, Louise Wallace had 2 games of 235. Excellent bowling. But Kathy Solis has had a high game of 256 in this tournament. In the match play, she had a 241. But her very first game in the tournament, I understand, was a 256.
The very first game, we saw very high scores. Bonku with a 267, Gerster with a 232, Doreen Dockery the 244, and Kathy.
That's a better
that
one.
time she's through. Now she's found a line. Coming right into the pocket, perfection shot.
So the scores in the fourth frame, 86 Louise Wallace, 64 Kathy Solis, difference of 22 pins.
Just push the ball out well.
these girls' averages. Kathy Solis averaged 194, almost 195 actually, 194.8, and Louise Wallace averaged 195.84, so very little between the two girls overall.
Very little. I think Cheryl Munson must be considered a little unlucky. She didn't find a line this morning. She didn't find her line till quite late. The last 3 games to come home after leading last night's play with a 206 average and 4 wins. Crossing on to Brooklyn, kicking the 6 pin out and just leaving that 10 pin there once again for Kathy.
Louise Wallace is possible 106.
Stayed down well on the ball that time and she carried.
106 in the 5th frame for Louise Wallace.
Beautifully balanced the foul line. Right in the pocket.
And the 10 pin well covered by Kathy Solis. So she's 84 in the 5th frame as against a 10, in the 5th frame at least, as against a 106 for Louise Wallace. Difference of 22. But Louise has the strike in the 6th and Kathy Solis the spare.
Ball's very high.
Oh, there's a
hitting
nasty
the head pin
one.
full in the middle, which will always lead the split.
Yes, the 4-6 split, which certainly is not an easy one. Those 2 pins on the same line across the pin deck.
Oh, it should just shoot for 1 pin.
Yes, play it safe.
Impossible.
That's 101 for Kathy Solis in the 6th frame. Now, Louise Wallace. Plays it safe, takes out the 6th pin, and she is 125 in the 6th, and then 134 in the 7th. In that frame, she is just open. 134, Louise Wallace in the 7th. And there's 101 for Kathy Solis in the 6th.
This shot now that Kathy has looks simple, but it's a very, very easy shot to chop, and she's carried the spare.
So she's a possible 121 in the 7th, which means she's caught up quite a few because of that open frame for Louise.
Louise is double in the 1st and 2nd frames has counted for her to once again Louise crossed over on the Brooklyn side, carried 9 pins. Ball crossing over on the left-hand side of the head pin, kicks out the 10 pin and leaves her with a 3 pin. And we see Kathy crossover, but nothing on the ball that time.
So that gives her 119 in the 7th frame. Kathy Solis 119 as against Louise Wallace's 134. Lead of 15 pins to Louise Wallace.
Covered the spare well.
That lead cut back, of course, from a 22-pin lead that Louise held a couple of frames back. Or 24
well,
at
Louise
one stage.
they both had splits, incidentally, when they opened too, which is interesting. They haven't had an error apart from their splits. Louise concentrating. But like her first major win, I'm sure. Let's see if she stays down with the ball. Coming up a little quickly.
Crossed over again, leaving the 6 pin. That's a 153 in the 8th frame for Louise Wallace.
Big follow through by Kathy that time.
Yes.
And the result is there.
So the lead is 14 pins to Louise Wallace in the 8th frame. But remember, there's a strike by Kathy Solis in the 9th. And in that frame, the 9th, Louise Wallace needs just this 6 pin for the spare. So effectively, that lead could be cut down now to 4 pins.
With the crucial 10th frame coming up, it'll Kathy throws a double. It could be very exciting. She could take the lead with a double. She's really working on that ball, but we've left a very nasty split.
Hasn't she? 6, 7, 10.
Very, very high hitting the head pin. Left her the 6, 7, 10 split. She'll probably shoot for this, I think, knowing Kathy.
Well, she can slide that 6 pin across the deck, can't she, to take out the 7?
I think she'll have a go. Louise looks like she really means business with that ball.
Well, Louise is 172 in the 9th frame.
A possible 192 for Louise.
She's having a go.
She's having a go, and she's done it.
Oh, magnificent. What a magnificent affair.
That's perfection.
That was perfection.
Yes.
That's
nice smile from Kathy.
That's
very finely onto the right-hand side of the 6 pin, shooting across the pin deck and right onto the 7 pin, falling. Perfection.
Well, that's the best ball of the tournament so far that we've seen.
That's pressure. Louise closing the 10th frame.
Spare in the 10th for Louise. She has just 1 ball remaining. So too does Kathy Solis, who has spared the 10th with that magnificent conversion of the split. 6, 7 and 10.
Right through, but she's going to cross, and it's a little flat.
Well, 8 pins down there, and she finishes with a 177 game. Kathy Solis, a 177.
Louise very determined. Staying down, coming up just a bit too quickly. I think she has a little problem.
9 pins down, and there's a 191. So that's a lead of 14 pins to Louise
Wallace.
Wallace.
But she carried 9 pins. Very lucky, I felt that time. But
so a lead of 14 pins for Louise Wallace going into the second of this 2-game series. Remember, total pinfall over the 2 games to count. And the winner of this match will meet Jeanette Baker of South Australia in the final of the ladies section of the South Pacific Classic. Louise Wallace, first ball of the second game.
Louise is just missing her line. Kathy's psyching herself up, I think, this game. Slides well through that time, crossed over and carried 8.
I was going to say that marvellous pair must have given her a lot of confidence.
High once again onto the Brooklyn side of the head pin, leaving her the 6-10.
It's the fair in the first for Louise Wallace.
And we see a spare for Kathy Solis.
Pins the difference.
Looked a little fine for a start, but the ball hooking back into the 6 pin. Both girls really move nice and smoothly.
They do.
A lot of work gone into their work of the approach and the
Both girls have very high follow-through. Steve remarked how the bowlers from the Philippines have a much higher follow-through than most of the Australian bowlers, but I noticed Louise follows through very well indeed.
Very similar follow-through. She said thank you.
Yes, a lucky fall of that 10 pin. That could have been a very nasty split again, the 4-7-10. Yes, no problem. So both are 18 in the first frame. Kathy Kathy Solis needing to pick up the 4 and 7 pins for an identical score in this game.
Beautifully balanced bowler, Kathy.
So both are 18 in the first frame with spares in the second.
This looks more like Louise. She's getting on the right-hand side of the pocket this time.
Yes.
Well, Kathy's finally carried.
So that's a 38 in the second frame for Kathy Solis with that strike in the fourth, with the strike in the third at least.
She's still looking for the pocket. She's crossing over. She should change the line a little, I think, and try to get that ball.
Well, Kathy Solis has picked up one of those pins, 38 to 37 in the second frame. Kathy having the strike in the third and Louise the spare.
Setting herself. She moves up nice and smoothly. And this time she's found the pocket. She's got on the right side of the head pin. To give herself a double. And the crowd appreciate that.
Now that just put the pressure right back onto Louise Wallace. Almost straight onto that head pin. So that's 56 in the third frame for Louise Wallace, as against a possible 68 for Kathy Solis. That would be 12 of the 14 pins.
Both girls handling this pressure, I think, very, very well.
Now, Kathy Solis, 38 in the second frame with strikes in the third and fourth. A possible 68 in the third. 68 less whatever she leaves standing with this ball.
I think she's found this line now. She's coming well through the ball.
Well,
that 10 pin could have gone.
She's 67 in the third frame, so she has picked up 11 of those 14 pins, trailing by only 3 now. And it's just what Louise needed.
Yes.
76 in the fourth frame with a strike in the fifth.
And the 5-pin really moves out well.
Oh, she's missed it. Open the frame now. That's going to make a big difference. That means 85 in the 86 in the fourth frame. 86 in the fourth frame for Kathy Solis. And 95 in the fifth, because she opened that one, only the 9 pins count. 95 as against a possible, possible, I suppose, 106 for...
well, I think Louise will be hoping for that. And she looks like she's coming through the ball well. She's coming a little quickly off the ball. Every now and then she's rearing up the foul line. Had to stay down a bit longer. Whips the ball in high when she does that.
The advantage back with Louise Wallace.
That time she carried that 10 pin. And walking back. That was their first error. The two girls of Kathy's 10 pin miss.
Yes. So it's 96 in the fifth frame for Louise Wallace with a spare in the sixth, and 95 to Kathy Solis with a strike in the 6th. So the difference at the moment is 15 pins. That lead of 14 after the first game to Louise Wallace increased by just 1 pin.
It's crossing. Kathy looks a little despondent. Much too hard.
.115 in the 6th frame, Louise Wallace. And the same score exactly in the 6th frame, 115 for Kathy Solis. So the lead is 14 again for Louise Wallace over the 2 games. Lead of 14 pins. It's still anybody's match.
Louise is spearing well still.
So both are 115 in the 6th frame with spares in the 7th.
She's found a target.
Yes. 135 in the 7th frame. Kathy Solis, 135 with a strike in the 8th. And there's that strike right into the pocket. Louise Wallace, 134 in the 7th frame. So the lead is back to 13 pins now over the 2 games. But Kathy Solis has the strike in the 8th frame.
Kathy will have to work hard to double to make up those 13 pins. She's still behind.
Now, if Kathy Solis can strike again, she's right back into it.
Making a little experience, which I think she's doing very well under the conditions in Australia, to make the cut and get to this stage. She almost left the big one.
Yes, almost left the 7-10 pin standing there. Fortunately, there was a late, for her, there was a late fall of the 10 pin. Louise Wallace.
Oh, there's trouble.
That's real trouble. She's left a nasty one. The 8-10, she'll have to play it safe and go for just one of those pins and leave that frame open. And there's the spare for Kathy Solis, giving her 155 in the 8th frame with a spare in the 9th, as against a 152 in the 8th frame and an almost impossible split in the 9th for Louise Wallace. Those 2 pins on the same line at the back of the pin deck. She plays it safe, goes for 1, and that gives her a 161 in the 9th frame as against a possible 175. And that would put Kathy in front by 1 pin.
If Kathy strikes now,
yes,
she's going to take the lead, and the 10th frame, vital frame. And I think she realises she's got to get through that ball, and she's done it.
She's done it. She's got a lead at 1 pin. In this game, it's 175 to Kathy Solis. Louise Wallace a 161 in the 9th frame, but Kathy Solis has a strike in the 10th. So they're all square now.
All square.
All
10 frame
square.
Game.
Yes, all
Pressure
square.
on Louise. She'll have to strike. She's crossing over.
Oh, and she's left that 310.
And it looks like Kathy Solis playing Jeanette Baker for the championship.
Kathy Solis with a strike in the 10th. She's 175 in the 9th. Strike in the 10th. Louise Wallace, who began with a lead at his second game with a lead of 14 pins, has seen that wiped away.
Oh, she's away.
She's in great form, just at the right time for her.
And we see Kathy smile for the first time this afternoon.
She's got a possible 205 and will win this game now. And here's this nasty 310 split for Louise Wallace. And she's got it. She's picked it up very well. So she could finish with a 181 as against a possible 205 for Kathy Solis. Now the last delivery of this match for Kathy Solis from the Philippines. Well, she's finished with a 203. That's excellent bowling. 203, a total of 380 for the two games. And Louise strikes with her last ball to finish with a 181, a total of 372. So it's an 8 pins win to Kathy Solis of the Philippines, and Kathy Solis goes into the grand final now against Jeanette Baker of South Australia. Very well bowled by